Guess what time it is?
It's time for small potatoes.
Where we give you a naughty tease of our latest Patreon episode.
Be sure to subscribe. Links are in the description. A question we're going to dive into, the question of guilt. Do sex workers feel guilty about being with married men? Hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. Such a big topic, right? Such a big question with so many variables. But let me read everyone the tweet itself, and then let's just chat about it. So a non-sex worker friend asked me once if it bothered me to know that I was sleeping with married men. Honestly, yes. All cheating, just like all human suffering, bothers me. Cheating is betrayal, and betrayal can destroy lives. But the adult industry isn't the problem. I also slept with plenty of non-married men. My heart goes out to everyone affected by betrayal, including the betrayer. Love that.
Mhm.
I chose to seek to understand as opposed to judge. People who are suffering make choices which reflect that pain. It isn't an excuse, and they're still accountable for their actions. But understanding leads to growth, while judgment leads to shame and the repetition of mistakes. I would love to know what other escorts think.
Hmm.
Right?
It's such an interesting topic, and I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. I think every sex worker will
Right.
like to feel different on the topic, but I agree with her heavily when she says the adult industry isn't the problem. Like the
Yeah.
root problem is why are these men's needs, whether that's physical or emotional, not being met? So,
Right. It's a thinker, and
yeah.
it's got different, almost different like flavors for different days too,
Mhm.
because I remember from my experience, I tried not to think about that most of the time.
Mhm.
Um, Moments where it became more prevalent in my mind were actually the guys that tried to hide that they were married, like the
Right.
ones in the summertime that would take their ring off and then still have the tan line there. And
Right.
at some point, I'm looking at your hands, sir. I can see that.
Mhm.
I do have eyeballs, right? So, like, that bothered me more because I was like, you're going to a lot of like effort. Like,
Mhm.
just do what you're doing. Like, why? And you're only doing that because you feel a way about it. Not because
Mhm.
I feel you're not doing it to appease me. I didn't say no wedding
Yeah.
bands allowed, right? So it that bothered me a little bit. And I would wonder a little bit more about the ones that it claimed they were happily married. That was
Right.
always, never know if it's true or not, right? But the
Mhm.
ones that would gush about it or brag about it or like go on about how hot their wife was or how amazing their sex life was, or, that would even get too personal. The ones who would like, I don't need to see pictures of your kids. We could talk about the fact that
Right.
you're dad. That's no problem. You could tell me that like there's a big hockey tournament this weekend. I won't be able to see you. Like, I don't mind
Mhm.
details, but like after we're done, I don't need you to open your wallet and start showing me the photos. Like, that's just a
Yeah.
little too close to home. And that would make me a little bit salty, maybe not jaded
Mhm.
entirely. And I always try not to go to the point of judgment ever. I come from a family of judgers, so I like to steer clear from that as the black sheep. But it tests you in that way
Yeah.
because like it's easy to jump to judgment and go, what a fucking asshole. But at the same time, there's a reason why
Mhm.
everyone's here. And for all I know, this could be a cover story. His whole happily married my hot wife story could just be a fantasy in his mind. He could be
Mhm.
single, never married, and still live with his mother. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But it makes it easier to like your instinct or your brain to go to judging people when they're doing something like that, putting it like right in your face that way. I
Right.
found that very difficult. Um, but most of the time it taught me a lot about the current state of marriages, just as a
Right.
general whole. And it taught me a lot about what not to do as a wife,
Yeah.
because here we are being hypocritical. I wouldn't want my husband to be in a rub and tug. Thank you very
Right.
much. Especially not one that I know everything that goes on there. Like,
Yeah.
it's just too much for me. I don't want to like find out you have like a review board handle and be able to like read about your escapades. Like, there's got to be, if you're going to do it, be good at hiding it in that sense,
Mhm.
right? Like, nobody wants to find that. So yeah, there was moments it struggled, and moments I just out of sight, out of mind kind of vibe. But the ones I struggled with, I found it hard to forget that about that client.
Right.
Like, it's not that I'd be like, oh, there's Dave, the married guy.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I would never in the back of my mind forget that time that you said blah, 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 or you did blah, blah, blah. Like,
Mhm.
it stuck as part of, I
Yeah.
guess, their like their rep in my mind. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think in general, the sex industry is and should be a judgment-free zone. Um, and I don't think men need us judging them when they walk through the door. And I mean, I was a wife at one time being in the industry. So I definitely did look at it through a different lens. At the end of the day, business is business and money needs to be
Right.
made. And let's face it, whether you exist as the worker or us as the business, the brick and mortar, the men will find service. So it doesn't, you can't
Right.
fault that individual sex worker. And I mean, you could look at other industries and say, how do you feel working at McDonald's serving people unhealthy food that makes them sick? Or how do you feel being a pharmaceutical rep, giving drugs that are to the detriment of the people consuming them just for profit? Like there is a lot of areas in the world that you could, have that same question in mind. But I think in general, in our industry, let's not judge the individual because they
Right.
all do have reasons. And just kind of look past it and let them enjoy their experience. But it's an interesting take. It's hard to really say. Like, do you really add up how many married men I slept with this week? It could weigh on some people.